Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of my voiceover weekly stew. I'm just playing around with this cool little remote I've got for the camera that, I can do that now. Other than that, it's kind of a creepy way to start. Anyway, welcome to this week's edition of my voiceover weekly stew. I'm Troy W. Hudson, and it has been a couple of weeks since I have actually sat in this chair and done a video, stew or otherwise. I did take a break. I went to Florida and visited some family and had a great rejuvenation period. I had very refreshed and had some good times. I actually went down there and didn't plan on this, but I got some voiceover coaching from a young voiceover prodigy, my grandson actually, seen here in the mask. And he was teaching me English, UK voiceover, Aussie voiceover styles. The kid's amazing. And he was doing some character voice work coaching with me. And hopefully it will help me as I move forward in my career. Because it just goes to show you, you're never too old to learn, and you're never too young to teach. Oh, one more picture I want to show you from the Florida vacation. Hung out by the pool with the fam. And in Florida, you never know what to expect. The place is crawling with interesting wildlife. And saw a couple of these little guys who weren't so little. Iguanas come and kind of hang out with you at poolside. Unusual, but nonetheless, that's the way it rolls in Florida, apparently. Not so much here in South Carolina, although we do share the same heat. We definitely share the same heat. And if you're a Floridian, you would probably say, well, your weather's hotter than our weather. And you could say that, but, when it's 90 or 95 and the humidity's up to 90% on the outside, when you're sitting in a warm, enclosed booth without a proper ventilation system, or even with a minor ventilation system to keep the air noise down, well, that gets tough if you're in here for 30 minutes or if you're in here for an hour or two doing an audiobook recording, like many times I need to be, or I'll book back-to-back sessions, and you just can't afford to step out and then step back in because sometimes it just throws your rhythm off. So you want to stick close by and do what you need to do and tough it out. And sometimes that means sitting in a sauna. Well, I've been looking for a way to help alleviate some of that heat, and I've done some research, and one of the things that people have mentioned is purchasing what's called a cooling vest. Now this one is a little stiff, you can hear that. I kind of soaked it down yesterday and put it in the freezer, and well, it comes out kind of stiff. It's like putting starch on a shirt and then, it's standing up in the corner. This is kind of the same principle. Wearing a soaked and then wrung out quilted little vest like this should keep you relatively cool. So when I put it on, I'm expecting... Well, when you do it the way I'm doing it, oh, that feels so good. Sorry. It really does feel good. I mean, it feels like it's probably about 85 outside right now on an early morning recording here. But this feels like my temperature just dropped about maybe 10 degrees. From what it was before I put the vest on. Now, granted, I'm wearing a black shirt, and I do have a little bit of air pumping in here, but imagine if you're sitting here focused and reading a script, and sweat begins to pour down into your eyes, or you're doing this, it's just hard to breathe. Not that it's exertion, but it's tough because you're focused. And when you get into a character voice, and you're getting all animated, and you're really getting into it, well, the problem with that is, of course, that you're steaming up. You're getting worked up. If it's high energy, you are anyway. And if you're not, then you're probably not doing it right. But that's just the way I do it. So without something like this, it would be almost unbearable. This has been quite the little investment. It's from Hypercool, Hyperkewl. And it seems to work there. I'm not being paid to endorse this product, by the way. The only thing you got to watch out for is this zipper if you have the mic or the headphone cable on the outside, because it's metal, and this zipper is metal, it can tend to touch, and any sort of sound that you don't want in your recordings can tend to get in there. And we have enough external things that we don't need to worry about besides the sound of the vest or a zipper getting in the way of clean audio recordings as it is. So enough with all the product endorsements. It does work fairly well if you soak it, and then if you put it in the freezer overnight and then pull it out in the morning, if that's when you're going to do your voiceover recording, and it does keep you nice and cool. If you don't and you just soak it and put it on, well, then you just end up with a very wet shirt, and when you take it off and then put it back on, if you leave and come back, then you're just feeling clammy, and it's like you jumped in the pool with your shirt on, and then you come out and then you're just dripping and uncomfortable, and while it was cool to begin with, it's now kind of uncomfortable and miserable. So the last thing you want to do is get all pruned up and waterlogged while you're recording a voiceover. But this is not wet right now. It's probably good for about 2 hours. What did I work on? Let's find out. Let's pull up the calendar and see. Let's see. When was the last time I did a stew? It was back on the 7th? No, it was on the 30th. 30th of April? Wow. Okay, so anyway, I had some e-learning I worked on the week of the 8th through the 13th. Had some presentations for a company up in Canada, an agriculture, actually a herbicide company who deals with agricultural products and markets to farmers and various individuals like that. And it's FMC Canada, and did some work for them on some PowerPoint presentations, doing some e-learning / marketing presentations for them. Did a project for an e-learning company in India on the digestive system, and had to learn how to say lots of really difficult words of things that are on the inside of us that, followed it all the way through, from how the food gets chewed up and how it goes down and how it wiggles around and goes through the intestines and then, the end product. And I did that right before lunch, which was kind of odd. And as I was eating, I was thinking, and now it's in my esophagus, and the esophagus is connected to the stomach, and then the bile ducts work, that sort of thing. And then I didn't want to go any further than that, and I don't want to, because I had to get that out of my head. Anyway, later in the afternoon, I was doing some character voice work this was kind of fun. If you know who Casey Kasem is, or was, God rest his soul, he was an amazing, legendary, iconic radio DJ who did not only radio work, but also did work on character voices, most famously for Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo cartoons, and many others. But that's what he was primarily noted for, the American Top 40 Countdown program, and he also did TV, America's Top 10 for a while. And I've always, growing up in the 80s and starting my broadcasting career in the 80s doing radio production, back then it was incredibly fun to listen to him, because he always had a way of just, he did the radio voice, but he also had a way of just making you think he was your friend, and he was. And a thing he used to do was the long-distance dedication. And Casey Kasem was the master of sincerity. And I had an opportunity to do a character voice for a guy who wanted to do a special birthday gift to his girlfriend, and it involved reading a script as Casey Kasem. And he did a long-distance dedication, introed the song, the guy inserted the song, did the mix, and apparently it was a big hit. And the last thing I got to say was, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. And that's what I got to do. So that was kind of cool. I looked up Casey, I listened to Casey. It had been a while, but it was. I did it with great fondness and with great reverence and respect to the legendary and now gone Casey Kasem. Further on in the week, I was doing some video and audio editing for an entertainment channel for their software system. Did also some real estate marketing presentations. Middle of the week, I had a chance to work on an image / marketing promotional video voiceover for a winery in California located in Hunter Valley, and got to see the video for the client who's based in China producing this for the winery. And he showed me these beautiful, majestic, sun flare through the lens shots of grapes and beautiful scenery. So that kind of put me in the mood to do something very mellow and very subdued and very natural and very soft. So that was kind of a cool thing, kind of a departure from some of the other stuff I was doing. Always good to mix it up, keeps it interesting. I like keeping it interesting. I really do. I'm also a video editor and have been for a long, long time, probably before the voiceover career started. And I still love to do it. And I have some clients contact me from time to time working on a show open for a potential program that's going to be on PBS, hopefully nationally, with a producer based in South Carolina. And I probably shouldn't say the name of the celebrity, just in case it doesn't work out. But anyway, had a lot of fun working in After Effects, doing some animation, building a show open for a cookbook that will eventually be turned into a program, and it deals with Southern recipes. And it was a lot of fun because it really challenged me to tap back into some of the animation skills I hadn't worked on in quite a while because I have been so focused on voiceover work. Did another story, actually did two stories for Bible Pathway Adventures, Betrayal of the King, and also, let me check the calendar later in the week, I did Swallowed by a Fish, which was actually the story of Jonah being swallowed by the fish. And it was, I looked on my calendar, it was actually the first voiceover that I did for Bible Pathway Adventures, and I looked at the calendar date, and it was March of 2014. So the tricky thing here was, apparently I'd missed a word or misread a word. It had gotten through all the proofreading and proof listening, and had somehow gotten out there on the app that they have. And I said the word soldier instead of sailor because it involves the story of Jonah, who ends up getting tossed overboard right before he gets swallowed and in the belly of the fish for 3 days, the giant fish for 3 days. And so see Jonah. Holy Bible for reference. If you want to read the whole thing, it's an awesome story. But anyway, the story, I misread that word 3+ years ago. So the request was, can you go back into the project before you do the video and fix that one word? Well, of course, you can't fix just one word normally. You need to fix a line or a sentence or a paragraph in some cases. So I listened back to something I'd done 3+ years ago. But on top of that, to make it a little more interesting, it involved me listening to a recording that was part of a 10 to 12 track fully mixed presentation. Now, while I did have the voice separate, I had to mix it out full with the rest of the project, so I had to reference and relink a lot of things. So the importance of keeping archives and good records really came into play for this particular project. So I was able to do that, matched it fairly well. Younger me was thinking, boy, I'm reading fast and I'm doing this. What I really noticed about it was the sound treatment I had in the room at the time. I was actually in a dining room 3+ years ago recording, thinking, oh, this sounds pretty good. And in comparison to listening back and being, surrounded by production sound curtains in a much smaller rectangular lower ceilinged room as it is now, it was dramatically different. But because it was mixed with the sound effects and music at that point, you really couldn't tell the difference. It was just a matter of matching the intonation and fancy words just means it sounds like it did before. And so I matched that and put it out, final mix, then did the video. So that was a challenging part. Again, the emphasis here, keep your stuff that you did from years ago. If you can't keep it on the system, then at least archive it so you can pull it up, which is basically what I did. Later on, let's see, worked on some more e-learning for a client in the Midwest with lots of potential for more. Started doing some short little snippets for second grade students for the website MrNussbaum.com, NUSSBAUM.com, Mr. at the front, MR, without the period. And apparently there's a lot of these scripts, and I did the second grade level where I was explaining to the kids, not in kind of a really cool storyteller voice, but more of a helpful teacher style, and did about 18 or 19 of those, and did some math questions. Thankfully, they were for, a little lower grade levels, because if they get up too high, then it could be challenging. Nonetheless, it was kind of cool to work with Greg at MrNussbaum.com. And apparently there'll be some more of those. Let's see. Did some more character voices. I had to do a project where I had to say some Hebrew words, and I'm not really, let's put it this way, it's challenging. Some of the pronunciations can be extremely challenging, and I had to do it 3 times because I couldn't quite say the name of the town in Israel correctly. So the client said, nope, not quite, nope, not quite, nope, not quite, and I normally have a 3 revision rule, but in this case I went beyond that because I was determined. It was a matter of principle at a certain point. I will say Ashdod. I had an opportunity to do some more video work, producing a book trailer for an author, Gerald Gillis, on his book, That Deadly Space. And he sent me the content, he sent me the pictures that he wanted, sent me the music, and the text he wanted on the book trailer. Did some research, studied the ones he had referenced, and looked around on YouTube, and came up with something that I thought kind of worked. And take a look. So thanks for joining me on my VoiceOver Weekly Stew this week. You guys have a great week. We'll see you next time.